I believe. How many days?
Oh, on that.
I should.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to call the March 5th meeting of the Common Council to order. I will ask the clerk to call the roll to determine a quorum.
Alderperson Weigel.
Here.
Barzak.
Here.
Chaplesky.
Here.
Lysick.
Here.
May.
Here.
Probst.
Here.
Reinke.
Here.
Rote.
Here.
Sangstack.
Here.
Vitale.
Here.
10 present, none excused.
We have a quorum. Alderman Weigel will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have 5 items up for public hearing this evening. I will ask the clerk to read item number 1.
A hearing on an ordinance to amend section 12.40 sub 1 NN and 12.40 sub 2T of the revised municipal code to permit places of assembly, including clubs, lodges, meeting halls, and theaters in the downtown central business district as a permitted or special use based upon the floor area.
Mr. Stiebel?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There was a local club that approached us about locating their meeting place in downtown West Allis, and places of assembly were not listed as a permitted use in C1. And that's the purpose of tonight's public hearing, is to amend our ordinance to allow that. As you may recall, several months ago, we did the same thing for theaters, and we're considering this area to be of the same kind of use as a theater. Those under 5,000 square feet will be a permitted use, and that those that are over 5,000 square feet would be permitted as a special use. We could ensure that we could maintain the parking requirements, et cetera. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. And if anybody has any addition or any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Do we have any questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Weigel?
John, so this would just essentially allow someone to have large group meetings. This is not converting a space into, say, a banquet facility or a large restaurant, or even allow for alcohol service. That's all this zoning change does is?
Those uses are permitted under a different section of the ordinance, that they could be downtown, or these are for meeting clubs. Okay. Like, say, for example, the Shriners or something like that. And their local group wants to meet downtown. And
when someone specifically wants to come into an actual address, it'll be a special use, and there'll be a public hearing regarding issues like hours of operation or that kind of thing, or is this going to become an allowed use then? If their use is under 5,000 square feet, it'll be a permitted use. Permitted use. If it's going to be a large group, which would be over 5,000 square feet, then it's going to require a separate public hearing and review by the Common Council. Okay, so I'm just trying to understand right now. So if it's under 5,000 square feet and someone rents or buys a building, what would their hours of operation restrictions be? Where is that conversation had? When they get their occupancy permit? No, they would be a permitted use. They could have the hours of operation that they see fit. So someone could conceivably be open 24 hours under this? Just as a theater could be. We don't have any, under this proposed ordinance, there would not be any requirements. Okay, and would it be other than any other retail store or any other use in the downtown area? Well, like restaurants usually get because that's a special use. A restaurant is a special use, and they are subject to hours that the Common Council approves. And I guess my question is, would it be onerous for us to convert this to a special use so that when this use actually comes about, that and a restriction of hours? I don't know that the bid even considered the idea that by supporting this ordinance, they're allowing someone potentially to operate a business 24 hours a day in the downtown. I don't know that. I wasn't at the bid executive, and it just dawned on me just now, actually. Yeah, this is not for a business. This is for a club. Now, if a club wanted to meet 24 hours a day, that would be unusual. I think what we're looking at is somebody like the Shriners Club that's going to meet once or twice a month from 8 to 9 or 8 to 10, you know.
the nice thing about having groups like that in our downtown area is that when they get done, hopefully,
Oh, I'm
they'll
in,
have dinner and,
I'm in favor of it, don't get me wrong. I'm just wondering about this, you know, and I'm not picking on any group in particular, but let's say they want to do an early morning tailgate thing there at 5 a.m. Would someone have a problem with that? Or
not if they had alcohol. I mean, if they wanted to meet there at 5 a.m.
Yeah, that would be okay.
Fine.
Okay.
I can't imagine too many clubs that are going to just meet and have some objectionable uses that we would like to regulate, that we would indeed want to regulate if they were a restaurant or a tavern or had liquor involved or something to that effect.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Any other questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Reinke.
Mr. Stiebel, could you give me a little history of why this wasn't put in place?
We had a particular club come to us and wanted to rent one of the buildings downtown, that they were a social club. And we looked at the ordinance and we go, wow, it doesn't allow a social club. It does throughout the rest of the city, but not in the C1 district. That's the purpose of this amendment, is to make this downtown section similar to what the rest of the city would be.
Okay, why was the previous ordinance put into place?
It was probably oversight.
Okay,
Now,
was there a problem?
no,
Okay,
if it's not specifically spelled out in the ordinance, it cannot be in that zoning district. And so we're just trying to clarify that issue.
I thought perhaps there was a problem and that's why the ordinance was
No, it wasn't
drafted.
just an oversight. I mean, that's
I see, thank
what we
you.
had anticipated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions or comments from the council? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will close public hearing number 1, and I'll ask the clerk to read number 2.
A hearing on the special use permit for Integrity Family Services to manage family support programs at 6014 West Madison Street.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the southwest corner of South 60th Street in Madison, in this area is the old location of St. Mary's Church, which is no longer there. And it's being reused as a number of other issues by another church. And the actual church is over in this area here. This is a hall, and this is their parking lot. They don't own this property in the middle. The purpose of this public hearing is that they want to make this hall a recreational hall for the youth of the church. And other churches could possibly rent it if they wanted to have a hall. And the purpose of the public hearing today is, because it's a special use, would be to allow that to take place. The hours of operation are, as noted, 9 p.m. During the week, 10 on Saturday, and 8 on Sunday. And they'd have about 6 employees. As they be built as a rec center, social programming, and also offer mentoring, that sort of thing. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this item? Seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, we will close public hearing number 2. I will ask clerk to read public hearing number 3.
A hearing on the special use permit for Spoon's Ice Cream to be located within the mixed commercial residential use building at 6501 through 6529 West Greenfield Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Place for you, Mickey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I didn't hear you. On the south side of Greenfield Avenue, in the new development, by Total Development, which includes all this area, is a proposal to allow an ice cream shop in this area. Because an ice cream shop is a restaurant, meets the definition of restaurant, all restaurants require a special use, so that's the purpose of the public hearing today. Of interest, they'll be serving ice cream, sherbet, yogurt, and custard, all in one, and then also breakfast and lunch is their targeted market area. This building has sufficient parking for all the uses. However, there's more parking in that area. These parking spaces are designed just for that building, but there are 4 other buildings in that area. The hours of operation are 7:30 a.m. to 11 p.m. and then close it at 10 o'clock on Sunday. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval, and we've received no objections to date. If you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Do we have any questions from the council on this item? Do we have any questions from the audience on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will close our 3rd public hearing, and I will ask clerk to read number 4.
A hearing on the special use permit to extend the hours of operation for a new restaurant, the Pizza Pit, a tenant within a portion of the existing Citgo station located at 6819 through 6821 West Lincoln Avenue.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the corner of 68th and Greenfield Avenue and Beloit Road and Lincoln and 68th Street is the existing Citgo gas station. You may recall that the Common Council and the Plan Commission approved special use for a restaurant somewhere about a year ago. The purpose of this public hearing is to change the hours of operation. In that existing permitted special use, the restaurant's already permitted in there, and in this case, they want to extend the closing hours from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., and then the delivery hours would be, they'd also extend those from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So that's technically the purpose of the public hearing, was to extend the delivery hours. And there continues to be no drive-through. All the other uses that were proposed will continue to be the same, except that it'll be a pizza business. I know we have received, I think, 1 objection from another organization that also sells pizza, but that's a private market issue. That's not something that we would be opining on as to whether the market is oversaturated or not. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval. And if you have any additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments on this item from the council? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item? Okay, we will close our 4th public hearing, and I will ask the clerk to read public hearing number 5.
A hearing on the special use permit for Sammy's Taste of Chicago, a restaurant proposed to be located at 1234 South 108th Street.
Mr. Stiebel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the northeast corner of Madison and Highway 100, or 108th Street, is an existing building that has gone through a variety of uses, most notably a donut shop at one particular time. I think most recently it was a cash for gold kind of place. But Sammy's Red Hot is proposing to open a restaurant at this location and move from another location, and I'll talk about that other location in just a moment. But Sammy's Taste of Chicago would like to have a restaurant there from 8 a.m. to 2:10 p.m. And it has 24 parking spaces are provided, 11 are required on the property. There'll be some additional landscaping requirements around the perimeter of the property are already there. They'll be adding just 1 more row of landscaping, otherwise it'll be similar to what's currently there. They are proposing to have about 11 tables indoors and then an outdoor dining area. Whoops. The bigger issue is the existing location on Greenfield, 105th and Greenfield is their current location. The issue here is they were granted an expansion of their special use, and they're allowed to demolish a single-family home and add additional parking, provided they had some additional landscaping. And also of note, this is just a wide open area here. The city engineer had required them to put a curb in. Now I know that they had issues of snow storage, and we did not require landscaping around the rear of the property in this area here, although the vegetation that's installed should be designed to be able to receive snow just as any other place does during the winter. Even though the state has done some turning movement changes in here, the city engineer still recommends that we continue to get this curb cut. And one of the issues that we have today is that that has not yet been done. They are subject to municipal court action to ensure that compliance. And so there's outstanding judge's issue on that, so that has to be resolved before we can even approve another special use for this particular company. This is the landscaping plan that still needs to be, this is the curb cut that still needs to be installed, and some minor landscaping that still is not included in there, or has not yet been installed. The Plan Commission has reviewed this and has recommended approval subject to these other issues being resolved. If you have additional questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Stiebel. Are there any questions or comments from the council on this item?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Barzak.
John, the first thing I think you hit on, and I think it's right up there, is we wanted to make clear in the hours of operation that it was 8 to 10 p.m. and we did discuss that at the Plan Commission, and I see the adjustment was made, so I'm happy with that. The next thing was that was not discussed, and there is a drive-through, is that that the owner or future owner of the property, that it's extremely clear that there'll never be a drive-through there. And I believe that is somewhere in the resolution, the special use?
The special use.
That there'll never be a drive-through there.
I'm not sure. I'll have to check to see if it says there'll never be a drive-through. A drive-through has to be expressly permitted in the special use for it to be allowed.
Correct.
Usually we don't say you'll never get
yep.
one.
And I just want to make sure that and we discussed this at Plan Commission, and it was clear there, and I want to make it clear at the council meeting that there will never be a drive-through there.
That's a policy decision that you will have to make.
Correct. The next one is on landscaping issues. In the past, at the other location, over the period of the years, and I think he went in 1998, I'm not sure about that, but I think it was pretty close to that. And we had issues all through the years of having him compliance with landscaping. Even as of late, we had problems with the water department, having communication with him to change out the meters, and then the water was shut down, and it's never his fault. It's always the city's fault, or always somebody else's fault. Then we had problems with, I believe, the deck. The deck was put in without permits, and we had to go back in there and have that all taken care of. And then, of course, you got the curb cut, which we've been arguing about over the last 8 to 10 years. And the problem is that he hears things that he wants to hear. For instance, he'll say, well, the state might come through with the road, and there's a possibility that they will help you with that curbing. And all he heard is help with the curbing, and the state's going to do it. And so then he didn't do it because he heard what he wanted to hear, and he didn't take the whole thing in context. My fear is that when he moves to the new location, which is an extremely important location, because this is on Highway 100, that we're going to run into these same issues with him, that the landscaping is going to be, I'm going to use the word half-hearted rather than another term I want to use, but it's not going to be, completely what we want, and things are not going to be completed in time, and it's just it's kind of I want to use the word dysfunctional running operation between him and the city. Now, I know there's outstanding fines, and there's, outstanding judgments also, and I think you made it clear that nothing will be done until that property is brought up to compliance, and then at that time, some decision will be made on by the council on whether or not to grant this special use.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alder. Excuse me. Thank you, Alderman Barzak. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor Devine. This is a hard one, and before I attended Plan Commission, I thought this was sort of a slam dunk. The owner of the building right now is also here in West Allis. Very good owners. They want to do the right thing. And when I attended the Plan Commission, I didn't quite understand the gravity of the current situation of the restaurant on Greenfield Avenue. And Gary had a copy of it. It was, I guess, the case file. It was 1.5 inch thick, of different things that, you know, we expect every business in this community to work well and play by the same rules as any other community or any other business. And just looking at the file and talking to the city attorney about some of the history on the project, it's a decade of non-compliance, not showing up to court hearings. It's very disconcerting to see that. And if I understand correctly, we cannot legally, under our ordinance, we cannot legally grant any permits until all fines are paid and things are satisfactorily, I guess, given the blessing by the city attorney's office, right?
That is correct.
So, in addition to these complaints and you know, in terms of the record and everything, we received an email today, and I called Gary as soon as I got it. I said, this is not very timely for Sammy's, unfortunately. It was a number of issues in the area around the current restaurant, and one of them has said, this morning I encountered a garbage bag of food waste and trash that came from Sammy's on the driveway leading to the Burger King parking lot. It had obviously been chewed on by rodents and raccoons as the bag has been shredded and the trash has been strewn on the pavement. It says the vermin problem is escalating as I have seen rats and raccoons around the dumpsters surrounding Sammy's Red Hots. I just want to see the existing things at the existing location taken care of before we move forward with this special use permit at another location. And I think the proper move tonight may be to hold this until such time that the city attorney has come to satisfaction that all the existing issues and fines and everything have been taken care of.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other questions or comments on this item for public hearing this evening? Okay, seeing none, are there any questions or comments from the audience on this item for public hearing? Yes. If you could speak on the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and then please sign in after your comments.
I obviously have lots of comments, but the garbage.
Can you start with your, Sammy?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Can you start with your name and address, please, for the record?
My name is Samuel Boringer. My present address is 1081 Regent Road, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. I do have a residence here in West Allis also, but I do not live there full-time. I live full-time in Oconomowoc right now. But I think the one thing that has to be clear here is that I do not own that building. Does anybody here know that on Highway 100 or on Greenfield Avenue? I don't own that building. I have never, ever owned that building. And I think the other thing that has to be clear is that because I had a discussion with Gary Barzak about this, and he insinuated that it was marital property, but that's not true. I had, when I got married in 1995 to Carol, then Fisher, we had a prenuptial prepared, and the prenuptial, I'm sorry I don't have it here, but I could produce it if I had to, stated that Carol owned that building. Even during the marriage, it was not to be part of the marital property. So she was always the owner of the property. Now, she's a legal adult. She's not a child. You know, and people think that maybe, you know, just because my name was on it, somehow I had control over this. Well, I didn't have control any more than any tenant would have. She still owns the building. She owned the building then. And we got divorced in June of 2010, and the divorce decree gave her ownership of the building. Not me. I was just a tenant. I owned the Sammy's Taste of Chicago name. And so all of those court proceedings that went on, she was supposed to be there at those court proceedings. She never showed up. It wasn't me. I can't come to a meeting or a court hearing that states that she's the owner of the building, and the person that owns the building and she held the ownership of the corporation up until the June of 2010. So prior to that, she owned the corporation, she owned the building. She's the one that should be held responsible for it. She benefits from it to this day. I still make payments to her all the time. So I'm not the one I don't have any benefit from that building. And that's why I'm here before you, because of this mess that's been created by her. I want to get out of it. I want to move to a new location and possibly, you know, start anew. The thing with the ongoing violations, and I want to talk about this. I've been told that I see something, I hear something, I only hear certain things. Well, I know for a fact in 2003, at this very meeting, when we were talking about that curb being done, it was proposed that it be put into a project that the city was going to do. That was what was told me. I said, okay, fine. I didn't agree to that curb being changed think about it, 30 inches. They want to reduce the curb 30 inches. The way that you come around the corner and you come into my restaurant by 30 inches. That's about that much, not a yard, it's 30 inches. So the purpose of that was told to me is that, so when a car comes around the corner if they were going west on Greenfield and they were going to turn north on 106th Street, that they couldn't make a turn into my restaurant that much sooner, that 30 inches sooner. But there's never been an accident there. There's never been any problem there. But they wanted this 30 inches reduction. To me, it's illogical. But yet, over on Highway 100, near you, Gary, where you live, there's a speedway. If you turn on Kearney Trucker and you make the turn going south on Highway 100, what happens immediately? Within 10 feet of the corner, you can turn into Speedway. That was approved by this place, this West Allis City. So that's fine, even though that power, there's been an accident there where because a car had to avoid an accident, ran into the electrical box, and I believe put out the electricity in that area for quite some time. That's fine, but that 30 inches was important. But that again, Carol, now her name is Sherman, she still owns the building. She was the one to do that should have done that. She took responsibility at the time of the trial. When our divorce was final, she took responsibility of that building. I just became a landlord or a tenant, and that was in 2010. Now you guys, we got to go back to 2003 when this was all done. It wasn't, but I guess if I owned the building then, I guess I would be standing here telling you a different story. But I didn't own the building then. I do not own the building today. I want, as a citizen, as a private citizen, not the owner of that property, I want to move my restaurant over to Highway 100. The main reason is business. My children, I have two boys, they're 12 and 15. I want to build something for them. The way it's being done right now with my wife being my landlord, it ain't working. And I don't think anybody here, any man here would want their wife as a landlord. It isn't working. It's a constant battle with her. It's a constant fight. She would never show up at this meeting. If you use this, wanted to get her to court again on what you're saying has to be done, she would never show up. And that's where I'm at. I'm fed up with it. I'm done. I'm finished. I am finished with that being the tenant in my wife's building. With that said, if I can't, as a citizen of West Allis, state of Wisconsin, if you guys would stop me from doing this, then I'm going to close the restaurant up. I'm not going to be the tenant in my wife's building. It's not going to happen. So as Sammy Boringer, the owner of Sammy's Taste of Chicago, which happens to be a very reputable business, this garbage deal, I have never heard of that before. I have never had any complaints from any of my neighbors, Mr. May. Never. I'm the guy that goes out there and cleans up that whole yard, that whole alleyway. How that got over into the Burger King area, I don't have a clue. I don't know. But I've never had any complaints from anybody there whatsoever. I want to move my business over to that location. And you can't stop a citizen from doing something that he wants to do just because of a landlord that hasn't done the proper things. And as far as landscaping goes, there have never been any issues with the landscaping, the trees. The trees have died, and I've had to replace them. And I replaced lots of trees there. I have proof of that. I think I've been a very good tenant. And I don't think there's anybody here that hasn't heard of Sammy's Taste of Chicago. I'm probably one of the most famous restaurants in West Allis. Wouldn't you agree, Gary? I think so. Been there since 1989. And this gentleman over here called it Sammy's Red Hots. That's what it was called before. In 1998, we incorporated. That's when we changed the name to Sammy's Taste of Chicago, because it made more sense to be, because it was Chicago-style hot dogs.
So Mr. Boringer, I'm going to ask you to wrap things up. It won't be decided in this forum. It'll be decided in the committee, and you'll have a chance for further dialogue then.
Well, thank you for hearing me. But again, I want to remind this council that I do not own the building.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from the audience on this item?
Mayor Devine?
Alderman May?
If I may.
You may.
Quickly correct the record. John, a person who pulls the permits is legally required to do all the things required of them in those permits, correct?
That's correct.
If I understand correctly, and it is not the person who owns the building whose name is on those permits, it is a certain business whose name is on those permits. An ordinance says that you must comply with all, satisfying all prior, what's that? Yeah, all other site plan stipulations, all other monies that you owe the city before you can move, right?
That's correct. We are following the corporation that agreed to do those things.
So all we're doing here is we're asking for all our businesses to play by the same rules.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other discussion?
I would like to respond to this.
We can, yeah, that's what we'll have further debate in the committee. We don't really have debate as much on the public hearing portion of it. But when we go to recess, the committees will meet and this issue will be on the agenda.
What Mr. May just said is true. I want to point it out. He's absolutely true. When that decision was made and when that agreement was made, Carol, then Boringer, was the legal owner of the corporation and the building, both. I only took possession of the legal name in 2010.
Okay. All right, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this item? Okay. Seeing none, we will close public hearing number 5. And we will proceed to citizen participation. Item E on your agendas. This is the opportunity for residents to address the council on any matters of interest to them. We ask that you limit your comments to 5 minutes, and we try to keep this session to 30 minutes. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council under citizen participation this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will close citizen participation and move on to item F on your agendas. Our standing committees will be meeting during recess. The room numbers are listed on page 2 on your agendas. And we will move on to item G, miscellaneous business. The mayor's report. I want to wish a late happy birthday to Dr. Seuss. I had had the chance to visit General Mitchell's school last week and read the Lorax to them. which was followed by meeting some other community leaders at Mary Queen of Saints and reading Fox in Socks and the Foot Book to their kindergartners, which I must have done well because they kept me around to have milk and cookies with them afterwards. Tomorrow, we'll be reading at Jefferson School. They're having their celebration a bit later. And I also wanted to commend the art and music teachers in the school district. I went over to the administration building Sunday. They had a art and music presentation. I was a little bit biased towards the piece that my daughter had on display, but they had art up and down the building, and they had music and singing throughout the building. It was really a nice event. And the last thing I have is, once again, we will be doing our 4th annual St. Baldrick's event. For those of you who don't know, this is an event where, and you may laugh when I say this, but we shave our heads to raise money for pediatric cancer research. And we get people from the community, from the various departments, to do the shaving, and then they go out and get donors to sponsor them in their head shaving. Last year, we had a really nice grant that came back to, I believe it was Children's Hospital, as a result of the St. Baldrick's Foundation. So it's actually coming back to the local hospitals and clinics. It's going to be this year at Hoover School, as there are a few students at Hoover that want to participate themselves. So if you are interested in raising money or donating for pediatric cancer research, feel free to get me your contact info or get a hold of me. The website will be up soon. And the last 3 years, we did have a council member participate. Anyone? Anyone? Yeah. Feel free to think that one over. That concludes the mayor's report this evening. Do we have any alderperson's comments?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman May.
I also want to thank the 5th grade students at Mary Queen of Saints for allowing me to come in and read the Lorax. I was supposed to come in on the 1st, but had a staff training, and they allowed me to come in on Monday and read along with the bishop. It was a very good time. Built cookies. You learn a lot from 5th graders. The second announcement is that on March 30th at La Follette Park from 8:30 to 10:30 in the morning, there's going to be a pancake breakfast. And at 11 o'clock, an Easter egg hunt. If you like, go to the Friend of La Follette Park website, just do a quick Google search, look it up. It's usually a small fee and a very good time. So look forward to seeing people there.
Thank you.
Mayor Devine?
Alderman Probst, you're going to join us in St. Baldrick's?
If Alderman Reinke does. Misery loves company. I have 3 real quick announcements. First, I would really love to extend a congratulations to our health department for attaining national accreditation. We are the first in the entire state, so that's definitely something to be proud of. This week, Thursday at 7 o'clock, Alderman Weigel and I have our listening session at the Constitution Room at the West Allis Public Library. And I also get to go to Jefferson Elementary School tomorrow and read to the 4-year-old kindergartners as well as the kindergartners in honor of Read Across America Week. So something I'm very much looking forward to.
Definitely good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderperson's comments this evening?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Reinke?
The answer is no.
Chicken.
Sorry, Kath.
No, now we're down to 8 council members.
Anyway, I'm pleased and proud to announce that the West Allis Health Department has achieved national accreditation as a chair of Board of Health. I can't be more pleased and proud of our health department, obviously. The members of the Board of Health and also the staff of the health department worked very, very hard for this particular honor. We went through a rigorous assessment process to ensure that it meets the quality standards of what is expected. We also have our police department and our fire department have this prestigious honor, and we're now among the finest. So I just wanted to let you know that we're so proud and pleased, along with the staff at the health department and along with our director, Sally and our previous director, Terry. They led us on this adventure, and obviously we've finally come to the end. We've worked so many years to get this achievement, and finally we have achieved this prestigious honor, and we're very pleased and proud. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other alderperson's comments this evening?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Vitale?
Yeah, normally, like I say, I don't praise anybody, but tonight I'm going to. The last snowstorm that we had, you know, many times the city drivers, you know, they do drives our plows. In many areas, it really occurs that sometime, particularly in the East End, we have people parking outside, and many times they don't move their cars, just put the cars on one side, so the drivers have to go in and out. It makes sometimes the job really hard, you know. But I'll say this last snowstorm, they done a terrific job, really. I mean, I went to many side streets on the East End, and I felt the guys did a great job, and I do appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman. Are there any other alderperson's comments this evening?
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
Ms. Clerk, are there any additions or corrections to tonight's agenda?
There are no changes.
Then I would move that the agenda be approved as submitted.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman Probst. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move for approval of the minutes of the Common Council regular meeting of February 19th, 2013.
Second.
There's a motion with a second by Alderman May. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item J on your agendas, I'll ask for a motion to refer items 6 through 10 to the city attorney for legal opinion.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion by Alderman Barzak, second by Alderman Weigel. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Item K on your agendas, standing committee reports. Alderman Jablonski.
Mayor Devine, I'll be reading it out after recess.
Okay, thank you, Alderman.
Mayor Devine.
Alderman Lysick.
I move that the Common Council stand in recess until conclusion of the committee meetings.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are in recess.